And so the previous sessions were about why you exist, how you're called to function, and where it is you're going as a parish community. This next section is going to be about how do we get there. And just like if you were lost in the mall or an amusement park or just on the road and using your GPS, you can't figure out where you're going to go unless you first understand where you're at right here, right? You turn on your GPS, there's always a marker. If you go to any map, there's always a marker that says you are here. And so we need to analyze our parish to figure out where your community is right now. Where are you? And there's a bunch of different ways to do that, right? You can have a SWOT analysis, you can hold listening sessions like we did during the Synod on Synodality, you can do parish surveys. Whatever you want to do to figure out where your parish community is fine. What we're going to introduce to you today, though, is a model that's called the 4 Actions Framework. And it was part of this thing called Blue Ocean Strategy. And originally, it was developed by businesses who were facing a lot of competition in their market. They were thinking, there's 50 other businesses, 50 other companies doing the exact same thing as us. What is going to set us apart? And what's great about this framework is that it's perfectly applicable to our parishes. Because the truth is that we're facing a lot of competition. We have 170 other parishes in addition to yours, right? And the thing is that we've got these great inventions now called cars. And so people can drive to another parish if they don't like the one that they're going to right now. People parish hop, right? We also have a bunch of other religious organizations. How many other churches, non-denomination churches, Christian churches do you have that are around you? How many other religions do you have that have their mosques, their temples, whatever, around you right now, right? We have so many people within our community that aren't actually Catholic, that belong to these other religions, and these other religions are trying to evangelize and draw new members in that might be Catholic. On top of that, we also have to compete with all of society. In 2024, Pew Research did a study that showed that 28% of Americans now identify as having no religious affiliation. They identify as nuns. This is now the new religious majority in the United States, people who don't have any sort of religious affiliation. And I would like to say that Catholics are in second place, but that's not true. We're in third. Evangelical Protestants are in second place at 24%. Catholics are in third place at 23%. To make matters worse, we're actually losing people faster than anybody else. For every one person that we bring into the Catholic Church, we have 6.5 people leave, right? Nearly 7 people leave for every one person that we bring in. And so I want you to think to your last Easter Vigil Mass. How many people did you welcome into the church that day? Now multiply that number by 7, because that's how many people left. I'm not saying they left from your church specifically, but in general, that's what's happening in our church today. On top of that, many of you are aware of the vocations crisis that our church is facing, particularly here in the U.S. And our diocese isn't immune to that either. Clustered parishes, where parishes are being grouped together under the same pastor, is becoming the norm. And we already know how tapped our pastors are, right? So, that's some pretty grim news. But that's where our church is at. And maybe you've noticed some trends within your own parish community. But there is hope, right? We wanted to share with you the results of a survey that was done in our diocese after COVID that was specifically looking at what would bring people back to the church. What would get people back into the pews? And there were 4 main things that came out of that survey. And the truth is they're not complicated things. They're very simple. But if we were to do these 4 things, they would have a tangible impact on these trends that I just shared with you. And the first thing that came out of the survey, the number one response on what would bring people back to the pews, back to church, back to Mass, is the impression that the pastor wants to know them. This was the number one response. How approachable is your pastor? How available is he? We know from the survey on our priests that nearly a third of them don't feel like they have the time to be with their people as much as they want to. And so how can we have pastors that want to know their people or give the impression that they want to know their people when our pastors themselves don't feel like they have the time to be with their people like they want to? What can we do as a parish community to make people feel like their pastor wants to know them? I know during COVID that a lot of our parish communities set up little phone trees to reach out to the different community members that they have to make them feel like they're still connected to the church. They would call them and be like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything that you want us to pray for? We're praying for you. Father's praying for you. We want you to come back. How many of our parishes are still doing that today? With our homebound, with the ones that haven't returned to Mass, haven't returned to church, how many of us are actively reaching out to our community saying, hey, we miss you, we want you back, pastor loves you, pastor wants to pray for you? The second biggest response that came out of that survey was the need for relevant homilies. And don't look at your pastor or your deacon when I say this, right? But y'all know this. Our homilies are 10 to 15 minutes, and God help us if they're any longer than that, right? Where your congregation is either totally bought into the message that's being communicated or they're totally tapped out, and there's very little in between. Pope Francis, if you've been following what he's been saying, actually recommends that homilies be closer to around 7-8 minutes, okay? Again, don't look at your pastor right now. But are we making the most of this time? And are we providing our pastors and our deacons with good feedback for their homilies to make them more relevant going forward? So we had a pastor who was assigned in a rural community who established a homily committee, right? And these weren't people that were writing his homily for him, but they would gather together on a weekly basis. They would read the readings together. They would discuss and pray about what's going on with the community and give the pastor feedback that he could incorporate into his homily for the upcoming Sunday. It's a great practice. Another good thing that you can do that our Protestant brothers and sisters actually do a much better job at than we do is that they'll actually preach an homily series where over the course of a couple weeks, they'll have a central message that they're diving deeper and deeper into week after week after week. Still tied to the readings on Sunday, right? But it's a core central message that they're able to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into. Now, I think that we're actually set up better as a Catholic Church to be able to do this because we have the liturgical calendar. We have times during our year that are naturally structured to be able to do this. We have the Advent season, Easter season, Lent, right? We even have times during ordinary time where the readings are all related. They're sequential in the gospel, and they naturally follow this pattern. So we'd be able to take a theme and dive deeper into it week after week after week. Right? 2 easy things to do. The third thing that came out of the survey was the need for activities for young families. And we already talked about this a little bit, right? But the need to invest in our young families, to recognize them not just as the future of our church, but our church today. Now, we piloted a program in our diocese that was focused specifically on forming the parents and grandparents of Hispanic families to help them pass on the faith to their children. And in the parish that we were piloting this at, one of the requirements for them as a pilot parish was to provide childcare during the formation sessions. And the reason this was a requirement was so that we would actually get the parents and the grandparents to show up so that they wouldn't have to worry about taking care of their kids at home, providing them with a meal, and putting them to bed afterwards, right? It eased some of the burden that they have on a nightly basis to allow them to come and participate in this formation event. So what are you doing as a parish community maybe unintentionally, that are putting barriers in front of young couples to participate in your ministries, to get involved in your community. My wife and I, we have a young family right now. And we have been to multiple parishes who have been promoting their marriage retreats. And it's a week-long thing, a weekend-long retreat, but it's something that my wife and I would love to do. We'd love to be a part of. But the thought of us having to find childcare for 3 days and 3 nights is just, it's a lot. It's a big burden for us. And so we're not able to do it. We're not able to participate when it's something that we would love to do. What are the things that you're doing unintentionally that are putting up barriers for your young families? And what are things that you can do right now to get them more involved? Activities specifically for them, events specifically for them, formation things specifically for them. The last thing that came out of the survey is the feeling that all people want to be welcomed at the parish. People want to be where they're wanted. Now, my wife and I went to a church in Galveston, Houston, a couple of years ago. And my wife was already pregnant with our first child, and she was starting to show. And the church, when we walked in, we sat down in the pew. They had these beautiful little cards that were in all the little pew card holders. And essentially, the card said, "Hey, we're so glad that you're here. We love that you brought your little one with you to Mass. And we understand that they might be a little rambunctious. They might cry. They might be loud. And that's okay. We love that you're here in the pews with us. If you feel the need, we have a cry room in the back. But don't feel like you have to go there." That little card made all the difference to me and my wife, right? And for a young family, a young couple that was already thinking about the anxiety that comes with having to get young kids ready for Mass and the crying that happens and the dirty looks that you receive, that card changed our entire heart, changed our entire way of looking at that parish community. And let me tell you, it wasn't just the card, though. It was the people there, too. Everybody that came by us at that church were so excited that we were there with them. They were telling my wife how good she looked and how excited that we were coming together, and they wanted us to be a part of their community. The people at the parish exhibited what was on the card. They were walking the walk, not just talking the talk. They had made the spirit of hospitality, the spirit that everybody is welcomed, part of their parish culture. And so how do we do that within our own parishes? Are your greeters greeting people by name? A lot of our parishes in our diocese right now have everybody stand up at the beginning of Mass and welcome the person next to them. How many of us actually know the person who we're saying hello to at Mass? Or at the end of Mass, we'll give away a little goodie bag to our new visitors and parishioners, but how many of us are actually following up with the visitors that we have, trying to get their contact information, trying to see what's going on in their lives, to see what ministries they can get plugged into? What are we doing to welcome people in, get them involved, and make them actually be a part of our community? Or are we judging them for having shorts when they come in, or flip-flops, or their hair's colored different colors, they've got belly rings? So now we have this understanding of the competition that our parishes are facing these days. We also have this understanding of 4 tangible things that we could do to bring people back to the pews. And the truth is that none of these 4 things, I said it before, none of these things are hard. These are simple things, things that cost 0 money to do. These 4 things are all about meeting people where they're at. And so how is your parish meeting people where they're at? But the truth is that this isn't actually about competition. This isn't about how Parish A can steal members from Parish B, how St. Matthew's can steal members from St. Peter and Paul, or St. Benedict's can steal parishioners from St. Patrick's, right? This isn't about us competing with one another. Like I mentioned before, all of us have the same Great Commission. At the same time, no 2 parishes are the same, no 2 communities are the same. And so how every parish accomplishes the Great Commission isn't going to look the same either. And so this framework that we're going to walk you through is going to hopefully help you understand how you uniquely, as a parish community, can fulfill the Great Commission. It's got 4 easy steps, all right? The first thing that we're going to do is look at what are those things that we can eliminate. What can we stop doing as a parish community? What are those things that don't align with that vision that you just talked about as a pastoral council? For example, and this is an extreme one, there was a parish in the urban area, like heavily central downtown area, that had a lady, like a lot of parishes do, that wore multiple hats. She was both the receptionist and the confirmation director for the parish. The problem was that this parish only had 3 youth in their confirmation program. And so half of this lady's time, half of her salary, half of her resources were supposed to be going towards putting on a confirmation program for 3 youth. Not a great use of their time. At the same time, this parish recognized that because they were downtown, a lot of their community was tourists, business people that were downtown working, and that while their Sunday masses were relatively stable as far as attendance went, their daily masses had continued to climb as the downtown area continued to be developed. What they decided to do was to eliminate their confirmation program so that this lady could focus her time, effort, attention on welcoming and being hospitable to the people that were coming in during daily mass and figuring out how to serve the tourists and the business people that were coming to the church in a more intentional way. Now that's an extreme example. I'm not recommending that you necessarily eliminate your confirmation program, right? Don't tell your pastor that I'm saying that. But we need to be thinking about the things that we're doing that don't align with our pastoral vision or are taking us away from better accomplishing our pastoral vision. What things can we eliminate? What can we stop doing? What maybe ministries aren't aligned with what you're doing as a parish community? That if you stop doing them would allow you to be better aligned with the vision. And these might be good things. They might be very good things. Confirmation programs are good things, right? But if eliminating these things helps you to better align yourself with your pastoral vision, then those things need to be eliminated. Are there maybe mindsets that need to be eliminated at your parish? Are there ministry cliques where people aren't welcoming and inviting other members in? Is there drama between staff and ministry leaders? Is there tension between the English community and the Spanish community? What's going on at your parish that's taking you away from accomplishing your pastoral vision? Let's eliminate those things. The next thing that we're going to look at are what are the things that we can reduce? What are those things that you're putting a lot of work into, a lot of time, money, and effort into, but you're not necessarily seeing the fruit worth that investment? Now, I know a lot of parishes that hold an annual retreat every single year for their men, women, teens, couples. And a lot of the times, how those parish retreats look for the return mass is that, there's maybe 30, 40 people on team and about 10 retreatants. And many of you know the amount of time, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears that go into putting on a retreat and facilitating a good retreat. And I'm not saying that you need to eliminate your retreat completely, but can we reduce them? Can we maybe do it every other year? Can we send our people maybe to other parishes that are holding retreats so that we don't have to do it every year? Is there maybe another type of retreat that we could offer instead? Do we need to offer the same retreat over and over and over again for our parish community? Other things that you might want to think about reducing are the number of announcements that are said before the final blessing. Sometimes that's a whole separate homily, right? Or maybe it's your volunteer burnout. You've got the same people in ministry positions and leadership positions, and they're getting burned out doing the same things over and over and over again. Or maybe it's your communication costs. You're still using a bunch of bulletins and you haven't really tapped into your website or social media. How could you reduce your bulletin costs, your communication costs by going more virtually and using online resources? The third thing that we're going to look at Or what are those things that we can improve about our parish? What are the things that we know are bringing people to our church that we need to invest more into? One of the very clear reasons is for our liturgies. We've already talked about the homilies and hospitality for a little bit, but what about your hymns? What about the music that's being provided, right, to elevate the Mass and to bring people into a deeper form of worship? Is your choir practicing on a regular basis? Are they on key? Are they singing the songs at a key that the rest of the congregation can sing along with? Right? Does your choir and does the music during your Sunday liturgies need to be improved? How can you improve your liturgies? And it's not just about the Sunday liturgies, right? It's about all the liturgies that we provide people. Baptisms, funerals, weddings. These are moments in people's lives where if they've been away from the church for years, they will come back for these moments to celebrate with their family. And how is our parish, how is our church handling the families during these times? Are we making it as easy as possible for them? Are we forming them well and showing them what a good church community looks like? Are we focused more on the paperwork, making sure that they have their deposit down and are leaving our spaces cleaned up afterwards? What's the focus there? A beautiful example of this is St. Anne's here in San Antonio. After every funeral, they automatically mark and have a Mass intention for that family and for the deceased one a couple of months in the future, a year in the future. That's such a simple example, but it shows the families that have experienced loss, that are grieving, that this parish community is going to continue walking with them and praying with them throughout this process. It's not just about the day of, but we're going to continue praying with you because we know that your loss isn't just a one-day loss. Other areas we talked about improving. You know, maybe you need to improve your community awareness or your volunteer engagement. Got the same people in everything all the time, your same ministries. How do we get more volunteers involved? Same with ministry participation. Maybe your sound system needs to be improved because poor sound systems are really distracting sometimes and they don't help your congregation listen to the music or the homilies that are being given. Fourth thing we're going to look at is what can you create? What are those things that aren't being offered in our parish community? What needs aren't being met? What gaps aren't being filled? And what can your parish do to uniquely serve your community in these areas? A great example is out in Lavernia. In 2023, they went down to a 4-day school week, Monday through Thursday, which left Fridays as sort of this free-for-all for the youth. You can imagine how parents felt about that, right? But the church saw it as a wonderful opportunity to serve their community in this unique way. And they started what's called Fun Fridays. And so it's an opportunity for parents to drop their kids off. They do Bible studies, they have time for homework and activities and community. And so it's this beautiful opportunity that the church saw to serve their community, created by the ISD out there. And so what are ways that you and your parish can uniquely fill the gaps within your community? Are there maybe a bunch of young mothers in your community that don't have anywhere to go, nowhere to turn to, and can your parish provide something for them? Like we mentioned before, do you have a bunch of young families in your community that aren't getting involved in the ministries that you have that you need it because they're watching their kids and having to take care of their kids at home in the evenings? Is there a way for you to provide child watch during those times for your young families to get involved? What can you do to uniquely fill these gaps? And so that's the model, right? It's pretty simple. What do we need to eliminate that's not aligned with our pastoral vision? What can we reduce that's not bearing the fruit worthy of the investment that we're putting in? What can we improve? What are those reasons why we know people are showing up that we need to improve on? And then what can we create? What are those unique gaps that need to be filled within our community that we are uniquely called to fill as a parish? And so just to give you two examples again for our fictional parish, for our urban one, they wanted to have excellent communication with their staff and their ministry leaders. And so what they want to eliminate is the current tension and politics that exist between the two. They also wanted to have harmony and collaboration between all the different ministries that they have. Right? And so to be able to do that, they need to be able to reduce the amount of ministry overlap that currently exists. A lot of parishes, a lot of ministries at the parish doing the same thing. And then they also recognize, right, that they want to offer something for everybody. They got a lot of professionals in the community that aren't really getting plugged in. And so they want to improve utilizing the professional gifts that are present within their community for the good of the parish. And then what they want to create is they wanted to have a unified community for the English and their Spanish speakers. And so they want to create opportunities for families to share their culture with the greater parish community. For our rural parish, right, they want to eliminate the drama, tension between the English and Spanish-speaking communities so that they have a more unified community. They want to be able to reduce the amount of adult or senior involvement so that their youth and young adults can get more involved, and so that the young families in the future are more involved in the parish. They want to be able to improve all those ecumenical relationships so they can tackle larger community issues together. And then they want to create an intergenerational mentorship ministry so that the older members in the community are supporting, serving, and empowering the younger generations in the community so that they don't have the same people doing the same thing all the time. Now, in both of these examples for the rural and the urban parishes, you should be able to hear how the things that they analyze, the things that they want to do directly relate to the vision that the parish discerned in the previous exercise. That's the point of this, right? Your analysis should reflect the vision that you set earlier. Here's just some additional examples that you can check out online. This presentation will be made available online. Please go look at it. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We encourage you now to go online and follow the parish analysis exercise that's available on our Pastoral Council webpage. And once you're finished, write your answers down in the space provided on the back of your parish script. And while you're likely going through this exercise as a pastoral council, we really encourage you to expand the conversation to other members in your parish. Get more people involved so you can have a better picture of what your parish is going through and where your parish is at right now. Ideally, you'd be doing something like this on a regular basis, at least annually, for sure whenever there's a major transition at your parish, like when your pastor leaves. Right? This is just good habit to get into. Analyzing your parish, evaluating your parish, seeing where you're at. At the same time, again, you don't have to use this framework that we introduced. You can do whatever you want, as long as you're getting a picture of your parish, whether it's a SWOT analysis, a survey, holding listening sessions, whatever you want to do. If you need help with that, please let our team know. Thank you. God bless.